I'm back. Let's go. First time in 9-10 days sitting in front of this setup to record. I mean, it feels like it's been forever since I recorded the video. You guys have shown big support on the Vince McMahon video, the CM Punk pipe bomb video, and the Truth About Babyfaces video. So yeah, awesome support on that. You guys, thanks for that. This video is going to be a pretty big one. Now, those of you who are the OGs of the channel will remember the Elitist Effect. You remember that from about April through like June? I did this like 20 minutes to hour long podcast every week covering a bunch of different wrestling related news. So that's what I did back then. I retired the series like back then, like 7 months ago, because I was like, this isn't really doing that great. So yeah, I did that then. Now I feel as though it's a great time to bring back the Elitist Effect because, as I said, I've been away on vacation for 8 days. I've had a bunch of stuff, I've seen a bunch of stuff go down in the wrestling world. And one thing I want to say, of course, the 1 week I take off from doing what I do and whatnot, the 1 week I take off is the most busy, the most newsworthy, the biggest week in pro wrestling in I don't even know how long. This week in wrestling, this past week, was crazy. That's why I'm titling this video, I don't even know what, this week was crazy, the week that was, something like that. Because, bruh, Sting debuting in All Elite Wrestling, Sting, the icon, Sting, he debuted in AEW. Now, you all know that because it happened like a week ago now, but bruh, crazy to get your head around. You've got Kenny Omega winning the AEW World Championship. Not as shocking because a bunch of people expected him to do so. I was one of them. So yeah, Kenny Omega won the AEW World title. But the thing that was so shocking is this AEW and Impact Wrestling partnership, which we're going to see what happens with that later on, because I'm currently recording this video while Monday Night Raw is on because I can't be bothered. I've currently got Shayna Baszler and I think that's, Shayna Baszler and Asuka are on my screen, so I'm not watching that crap. Meanwhile, I'm recording this and giving you guys some content. So, Impact Wrestling tonight, or whenever you watch this, is going to be very interesting to see what they do with this Kenny Omega, AEW, and Impact crossover. I can't wait to see what they do there. And also, because of that, just to get this mini announcement in, I'm going to be reviewing Impact Wrestling going forward. Yeah, that's right. The Elitist will be reviewing Impact Wrestling. So that should be good. It's some easy content. It's some fun content. It's something that you guys are interested in because, I mean, most of you don't even know how to watch Impact. I barely do. I'll probably illegally stream it myself. So yeah, I'll watch Impact. I'll review it for you guys so that if you missed Impact, you want to see what Kenny Omega was involved in, what AEW stuff happened on Impact, I'll be there for the review. So come to my channel, check out what happened, and I got you covered. So yeah, that's the Impact Wrestling stuff. But yeah, just in general, so much happened in this past week of wrestling. I've got plenty to talk about. I don't know how long this video will go for. You guys can tell right now on the screen, and you've seen the length of the video. Personally, if I'm going to make a prediction, I'm going to say it's going to be about a 45-minute video, given the content we've got. Now, if I was a bunch of other creators in the YWC, the content of this video, I'd do like 5 or 6 separate short videos. But I thought that instead of flooding your sub box with a bunch of short videos, I think it's best to do this so that in case you guys either have 40 minutes to 50 minutes to kill, or you're doing something, you're playing on your PS4 or whatever, you want to plug this in, have a listen to this and all that kind of good stuff, I think that sounds good. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this. I'm basically going to get into this. Also, one other thing I want to say, huge shout out to Aiden Wrestling, or aka Wrastlin' Funds, is his YouTube channel. I'll link both down below. This guy, he's my graphic design guy, he's my thumbnail guy, he's made the thumbnails for the past week. You've probably seen him do the thumbnails for Bonafide Heat and TM161. His thumbnails are phenomenal. They're, seriously speaking, I know you're watching the video right now, Aiden. These thumbnails are improving every time you do them. So, huge shout out to that. The channel looks so much more professional. Look at this thumbnail. Bruh, it looks so sick. So, yeah, shout out to you. He's making all the thumbnails, so go check out his YouTube channel. If we can get him to 100 subscribers, that would be dope. So, yeah, that's everything with that. Now, I guess I'm just going to get into this. So, AEW, winter is coming. I'm not going to do a full review for this show because the show was 5 days old. I'm not wrestling Jesus. I can't bring a bunch of, amazing jokes and amazing comedy to where a late review will still be funny and entertaining. What I will do, though, is talk about like the main thing on the show, well, there were two main things, but I'll talk about each of them. Firstly, it's got to be Sting. Sting, the icon. Sting made his debut, which in AEW, which I couldn't believe it. Like, I was like out, I think I was on the beach or whatever, and I checked my phone, and my mentions are being flooded. My timeline is a bunch of pictures of Sting, a bunch of videos, people being like, oh my god, Sting's in AEW. Like, people just full sending it, people freaking out. I'm like, bruh, Sting's in AEW. I couldn't believe it. Like, my first reaction was, oh my god, what? I was like, legitimately just, it caught me off guard. Because one of the things with the Sting debut, which is an interesting thing to note, which I've seen people in the community make mention of, you notice how Sting, when he makes his AEW debut, this wasn't leaked, this wasn't, let out by some insider, this wasn't, spoiled by Dave Meltzer, spoiled by Brian Alvarez. Like, most of the time how with WWE, like for weeks on end, like for example with Edge, remember back a year ago, like at this time, literally a year ago, we were having rumors, oh, Edge is going to return to the Royal Rumble, Edge is going to make his Rumble return, oh, we're going to see Edge is training for a return, Edge this, Edge that. Remember all those Edge rumors? Like if you followed the news and the dirt sheets a year ago, it was all, oh, Edge is coming back, Edge, and that was like all you were hearing. And so in turn, not that spoiled or put a dampener on the moment when Edge came back at the Rumble, because Edge returning to the Rumble, in my opinion, is still the best wrestling moment of 2020. That can't be topped. Like, the Sting thing was... The Sting things are definitely, like, a close second. But that Edge return at the Rumble, oh, perfect. So, yeah, my point is, that a year ago in WWE, that was leaked, spoiled, rumored for, like, several months. Everyone pretty much knew that Edge was going to make his Rumble return. Well, we didn't know for sure, but everyone was like, well, we've been hearing rumors for 2 months. Edge is probably going to come out. So it wasn't as shocking. But then you fast forward to AEW Winter is Coming. They're doing this whole thing with Team Taz, Darby Allin, Cody. You've got Dustin Rhodes out there. So you've got this whole thing going on. And then all of a sudden, they're doing the beatdown. Team Taz. You've got heel Will Hobbs, who I haven't talked about, like, Will Hobbs on video. I've tweeted about him like once or twice, I think, but those tweets kind of get lost in the shuffle. So on video, I want to make this comment now. Will Hobbs I love the guy. Will Hobbs is phenomenal. Will Hobbs is one of these guys who, he's a powerhouse, he's a beast. He looks like he has some natural charisma to him. He looks like he has something to really bring to the table in All Elite Wrestling. And he creates a bit of a shift in the dynamic. Because yes, AEW have the big men, Archer. You've got Brody Lee, Brian Cage, Wardlow, Luchasaurus, these type of guys. Like, AEW is not desperately, running out of big men. They have a bunch of promising, up-and-coming big men. As I said, Luchasaurus, Wardlow, and Will Hobbs especially. Guys who are going to be up-and-comers. Guys who, realistically, are going to make great TNT champions. And one day, AEW World Heavyweight champions. So, you've got a bunch of these guys. But to me, Will Hobbs... Big Hobbsy, this guy, oh, dude, bro, this guy's a beast, bro. This guy is jacked, oh my god. He's just a machine. Like, I know Brian Cage is the machine, as Taz says, but Will Hobbs, dude, I think Will Hobbs is phenomenal. I'm a Will Hobbs, not stan, because I'm not going to post 3 pictures a day of Will Hobbs, and then if someone disses Will Hobbs, send hate their way, but... Dude, Will Hobbs is just a beast. So, yeah, Will Hobbs, Team Taz, they're doing this whole thing where Ricky Starks, Brian Cage, Will Hobbs, they're under the order of Taz, they're beating down Dustin, Cody, and Darby Allin, the TNT champion. So, they're doing this whole beatdown, and then the lights go out. And then, when the lights are out, like, I was watching this segment, like, obviously... As I said, I had it spoiled on social media that Sting returned, so I knew Sting was coming when I was watching these clips, but even just watching it, like, I've watched the Sting return clip and the Sting return video. I've watched that so many damn times. Like, I think a lot of you guys watching this video probably have as well, because moments like that are just so damn cool. Like, that's a moment which we'll look back on 2020, and we'll look back on All Elite Wrestling, and that will be one of the moments that we look back upon. Like, AEW, they have a lot of, good shows, a lot of, good wrestling, but moments are really what make shows. Moments are what, memories are contributed to, because you're not really going to remember a random good match on any wrestling show. Just a good match is a good match. But moments are what do you remember? And that Sting debut in AEW, that Sting debut was just special. Like, everything about it, as I was saying, so the lights go out, you've got Team Taz in the ring, Taz is standing behind his two heavies and Ricky Starks, he's standing behind these guys, and then we get this, like, wintry type theme, this wintry video package. It's kind of short, you see, like, kind of like Crow, Raven, that type of thing, very kind of Game of Thronesy almost, like, not fully, obviously, but you have that kind of vibe, the winter is coming, it really fits. And Sting really fit with the theme, like winter is coming. I think the whole snow effect, like, so on the Titantron, the word Sting came up and everyone just popped. It's just awesome moment, dude. Amazing moment. Sting comes out, Team Taz is in the ring beside themselves. They cannot believe what's happening. Then we have this whole thing where snow's falling down. Sting walks out. The commentary is on point. This commentary was top notch. Tony Schiavone, take a bow for this commentary. Like, as far as commentary, I know AEW has the best commentary in the business. I think that's, almost objective. Like, the amount of commentators AEW have, like, bruh. They had Taz, and Taz couldn't even work on Dynamite because the Dynamite commentary was Schiavone, Jim Ross, and Excalibur. So, Taz, a few months ago, had to work on, like, AEW Dark. That's how good the commentary is. So, this commentary team, led by Tony Schiavone in this situation, Tony Schiavone with his It's Sting, like, I'm not going to try and do a full Tony Schiavone impression. I'm not Technical Work Rate Productions. I'm not that great at impressions. Like, I try my best. You guys have heard some, but yeah, I'm not going to impersonate Tony Schiavone, but boy, oh boy, he did a exceptional job with that impression. Oh, it was phenomenal, dude. So yeah, that was the whole thing with Tony Schiavone. His call was great. Jim Ross as well. Like, Jim Ross, I know some people have criticized his call, and Jim Ross, and people have criticized him saying that, oh, he sounds like he doesn't even want to be there. Jim Ross sounds like he just doesn't care. And, like, I heard this criticism before I watched the Sting debut. So I was going into it thinking, oh, so Jim Ross is going to sound like he doesn't want to be there. And then I watch it. I'm like, I don't get where this criticism's coming from. Like, yeah, Jim Ross, he's not as engaging. He's not as lively as he was when he was in his, like, 40s, 50s, even, like, his early 60s, like a decade ago. But, even still, Jim Ross, even if he's not at 100%, Jim Ross is an absolute, like, goated commentator. Jim Ross, what he brings to the table is really damn good. So, to think people just go out of their way, like, mainly this is AEW haters. These are the AEW haters who look for absolutely anything they can. Like, that's this mob on wrestling Twitter. That's the group who AEW do any little thing, like the tiny little things, as far as Jim Ross not having the most enthusiasm, a match having a botch, a referee making a mistake, a production error where they cut to the wrong shot. These are the kind of people who look at that and jump on the coattails of that and freak out and act like, oh my god, AEW sucks. You see this? This is why AEW is getting 700,000 viewers a week. This is why AEW sucks. This is why AEW is never going to beat WWE. And it's like, is there a need to make a scene about it? So, anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Jim Ross was great on commentary. He really added to this. Him and Schiavone especially were phenomenal. Excalibur's Excalibur. I nothing the guy. Excalibur's on my screen. I hear him. Don't really care. So, the commentary was really good. Sting walks down. He's in the snow. He's got the leather jacket on. He's got the Sting t-shirt. So sick. His old theme song's playing. Amazing moment. Sting gets in the ring. Team Taz they're just like, oh my god. So Sting basically clears the ring, and then we get these, like, super cool stare downs. So they have Sting do a stare down with Arn Anderson, which is good because Sting and Arn had some matches back in the day, back in the 80s. I'd be lying if I said I watched these matches. I'm not going to be one of these YWC historians who pretends that they've watched every wrestling match ever and they know everything about the biz. The 80s and NWA, WCW, in that era, not my strong suit. A bunch of you guys watching this know more about that than me because, I'm a 21st century guy. I'm not someone who really knows that much about the Sting and Arn Anderson history, but nevertheless, they have history from NWA, WCW, that kind of time period, and history of the Four Horsemen and Sting involvement against the Four Horsemen. So there was some stuff there. There was some history. Really cool stare down, that one. Arn Anderson, I love with Arn, his demeanor was, like, unfazed. Like, Arn Anderson is just looking at Sting like, you're still going, bud. And it was like, Arn Anderson's face is really good. Sting just motionless, face paint, looks at him, moves on. So that was really good. Then Sting goes to Dustin Rhodes. Dustin Rhodes is like, on his back in the corner. One thing about Dustin, I really loved how he was like, not in awe of Sting, but he was like, pretty much his face said, "You're better than me." That's essentially what Dustin Rhodes did. His acting was phenomenal. Sting, "You're better than me." All good. So that's what he did there. Then Sting walked over to Cody Rhodes. This was great. The visual of this was phenomenal. Cody, he's sitting in the corner. He's just sitting there because Sting was one of his idols. Sting growing up was one of the guys who Cody really looked up to. So to have that symbolism in the visual where Cody is sitting down in the corner, he's looking up, like quite literally he's looking up at Sting. Sting takes a knee basically and he looks at Cody Rhodes like, this is Dusty's youngest son. It was just this great moment. Like the way they did this was just phenomenal. So they did that. Then Darby Allin is in the opposite corner. He's like, struggling. He's just been beaten up by Team Taz. He's like slowly getting himself up. He's like hunching his way back up. Sting walks over. Sting looks at Darby Allin. They do this like really good facial. Darby Allin is literally just like, it's like Darby Allin's looking not into a mirror, but at his like future self almost, as far as like what he could be, what the best version of Darby Allin will look like, what Darby Allin, if he has 20 to 25 years of doing his best in ring and doing his best as a pro wrestler, what that looks like. So Darby Allin, they do this whole thing with the Darby Allin Sting stare down, made for another amazing visual. Like this debut, so many sick visuals from this debut. So that was basically Sting's debut in All Elite Wrestling. Yeah, I covered that pretty well, I think so. I like to say so myself. So yeah, Sting in All Elite Wrestling. Where he goes from here, I don't know. Like I really don't know what they're going to do with Sting. It has me compelled. I'll be watching AEW Dynamite on Wednesday. I want to see what they have to do. Because he's Sting. He's 61, which this is one thing that Wrestling Twitter has made a kerfuffle about already. The fact that Sting is 61, there's been a number of, there we go, botched that completely, but no, there's been a number of comparisons to Bill Goldberg. This whole Sting, Goldberg, I've seen people in the wrestling community making a scene on Twitter saying, "Oh, well, when Goldberg comes back, people don't care. You guys hate on him. But when Sting comes back, it's the best thing ever." Well, that's hypocritical because Sting's 8 years older than Goldberg. And it's like, bruh. Okay, here's the thing. Goldberg, when he came back in 2016, that was much the same. Well, it was similar to an extent as to the Sting debut at the moment. Because Goldberg in 2016 was a fresh attraction. He was interesting. You want to see what Goldberg had to do. We hadn't seen bad stuff from Goldberg yet. We'd only seen Goldberg like 12 years prior at WrestleMania 20 against Brock, and we'd seen Goldberg in WCW go 173-0. Well, he went like 50-0, but anyway, we'd seen Goldberg go on a streak, we'd seen Goldberg squash some people, and we'd seen him go off and play football and do that kind of stuff. So Goldberg, when he came back in 2016, was interesting, fresh, compelling. People cared then. And then as the months went by, they did the stuff with Kevin Owens. They did the stuff with Bray Wyatt. Yeah, nowadays, the bulk majority of the wrestling community, especially the loud vocal minority, they hate Goldberg. Personally, I made the whole Rate This Wrestler video on Goldberg. Go check that out if you haven't already. I made that video. Goldberg, I really like the guy. I think he represents a lot of what's good about pro wrestling. Yes, in the ring, he's abysmal. Yes, he nearly killed Bret Hart and shortened Bret Hart's career by about 10 years. Does that suck? Yes. But at the end of the day, I'm a fan of Goldberg, so I'm not going to be turned off the guy like a lot of the wrestling community is. A lot of the wrestling community detests the man. The wrestling community hates this guy because Goldberg squashes fat guys. And the wrestling community needs their fat guys to succeed. So, yeah, Goldberg, the whole Goldberg Sting thing, I've seen that a lot on wrestling Twitter. My timeline, bloody hell, my timeline was flooded with that crap, I swear. People just made an absolute scene about, well, but Goldberg's 53 and Sting's 61. Yeah, but that was literally my timeline in a nutshell. So, I guess that was the thing. Anyway, what I was saying before, Sting in All Elite Wrestling, what's he going to do? I saw the Instagram picture Chris Jericho posted, and Sting pretty much retweeted it and put like I forget what Sting tweeted, but yeah, Jericho, there was the thing about Jericho and Sting, where it was like Sting, the icon, and versus the Painmaker. So I guess they could do a cinematic with Sting and Jericho, which, I mean, sounds compelling. Sounds like it's be a good talking point. Sting versus Jericho. I mean, as far as things that will bring in that disenfranchised casual wrestling fan, a Sting and Chris Jericho program will do that. And I get a lot of people don't want to see that. I completely get why. Both guys, Sting's 61, Jericho's 50. They're hardly spring chickens. They can hardly go 25 minutes in a bell-to-bell classic. They're hardly Steamboat and Savage in their prime. But at the same time, these guys can bring something to the table. These guys can bring in eyeballs, especially Sting, because bloody hell, it's Sting. Sting is Sting, okay? Enough said. So, yeah, Sting versus Jericho, I guess you can do that. I think other stuff, having Sting as a manager would be good. Personally, I've seen people suggest that Sting as a GM. I don't know how you do that. Sting as a GM. Sting isn't a talker. Okay, the thing with GMs, ideally, they're people with charisma, with personality. They don't have the face paint. Like, a GM with face paint, that wouldn't work. Unless you could really get creative with that. Like, I'm sure Vince Russo could maybe make that work, but I don't have faith in Tony Khan and Cody Rhodes to make Sting as the general manager of AEW. I don't think that's going to work. So, I guess they're not going to do Sting as the GM. Or maybe they will. I don't know. Waits to be seen. But I don't think that makes the most sense. I think Sting maybe is Darby Allin's manager. That's like the obvious one. Like, if you want to have Sting be Darby Allin's manager, that just books itself. That's like the super safe, super straightforward, like, route of booking. That's like the easiest way you can possibly go. So, maybe you do Sting as Darby Allin's manager. Maybe Sting wrestles Darby Allin. I think that would be really sick. Like, maybe if you want to do a storyline between these two, I reckon you could do that. You could have that be either the co-main event or the main event of one of the next AEW pay-per-views. Or maybe if you want to slow burn it and have that be like the co-main event of Double or Nothing, I think that would be really sick, having Sting versus Darby Allin. I feel like that match needs to happen. Sting can try and redeem himself, because you've got to remember, Sting's last match, okay, the last match we've ever seen from Sting, many of you remember this, the last match we've seen from Sting, he nearly got murdered by Seth Rollins. And like, I don't know, for someone like Sting, I think him going out like that isn't ideal. I think Sting versus Darby Allin, a lot of that would be spectacle. A lot of that would be a Stinger splash, all those kind of Sting trademark type moves. Darby Allin will get his stuff in. You could have Sting really, like, the story of that match is captivating. Darby Allin versus Sting. It's Darby Allin versus his idol. That's what it would be. It's Sting versus the future him, essentially. So that'd be good. And I've seen people say Sting versus Cody Rhodes. Don't care to see that, mate. Sting versus Cody, I mean, really? I mean, Cody would probably win that, knowing Cody Rhodes. So, yeah, I mean, those like the real obvious kind of options for Sting. I'm sure people have pitched storylines. People have, knowing the AEW fan base, people have probably written out full, like, 9-page long storylines with backstage segments and all this kind of stuff featuring Sting. Look, I haven't done that. The one thing I want to say, though, try not to overdo Sting. Like, I get Sting is a big attraction, but ideally, I mean, have him on next week to really address what's going on. Maybe do a vignette the week after. Maybe an interview the week after. Have him appear again for a promo for the first show of the new year. That kind of thing. Please don't do what you did. Please don't do with Sting what you did with Kenny Omega back in April and May of this year. Which, I guess, that's a different situation, because most of the wrestlers in the AEW roster back then were, like, with their families at home, so Kenny Omega had to do this. But what they did back then was having Kenny Omega every week, week in, week out, having 20-minute matches. It watered down Kenny Omega to an extent. It made Kenny Omega not feel as important, so yeah, that's basically all the Sting stuff. While I'm talking about Kenny Omega, I think this is the perfect time to move on to the AEW World Championship thing and everything that's going on with that. So, Kenny Omega, he won the AEW World title, which, I mean, many of you know, once again, this is old news. I'm not breaking anything to you. This isn't breaking news with the Elitist. It's not the Elitist clickbaiting a 30-second long video to try and tell you that Kenny Omega's won the title. We all know this. Kenny Omega defeated Jon Moxley at AEW Winter is Coming, aka Dynamite, on December 2nd to win the AEW World Championship. So, it's good to see Kenny Omega is now the AEW World Champion. One other thing I want to say, I really like how AEW, now, as of the moment, none of their champions are ex-WWE guys. I really like that because one of the biggest criticisms about AEW in the first year of Dynamite and first year and a half of them as a promotion running shows was that, look, AEW is good, but their champions are ex-WWE guys. Oh, AEW is good, but Jon Moxley is the champion, aka Dean Ambrose. Oh, AEW is good, but Cody Rhodes is the TNT champion. Okay, AEW is good, but FTR are the tag team champions, aka the Revival. So now you've got an AEW product in which Kenny Omega is the world's heavyweight champion. You've got the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick, as the tag team champions. You've got Hikaru Shida, however you say it. I still don't know how to say that. Shida as the women's champion, and you've got Darby Allin as the TNT champion. Which one thing I really liked was that they made Darby Allin the first non-elite male champion in All Elite Wrestling, which I thought was pretty cool. I think that was good. Well, singles champion. They had SCU as tag champions. Whatever. Basically, point is I'm just going to stop babbling about this. Point is, Kenny Omega is the AEW World Champion. Where they go from here? Well, Don Callis is now aligned with Kenny Omega. They did the whole thing where they did like a mini screwjob finish. I saw people on wrestling Twitter trying to compare what Kenny and Moxley did with Don Callis in the finish there to the Montreal Screwjob. Okay, if you want to say it's like Montreal, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. Freedom of speech, but it wasn't like Montreal at all. So anyone saying that has no clue what they're doing. But yeah, Kenny Omega's the AEW World Champion. I'm not really going to review the match. The match itself was a damn good 28-minute match. It was the best match of Moxley's title reign. Was this match between Moxley and Omega at Winter is Coming better than their match at Full Gear a year ago? That insane lights out unsanctioned match. Was Winter is Coming better than Full Gear? Personally, I don't think it was. If you do, I don't really care. It's opinions are opinions. If you thought the match the other day was better than last year, fair play to you. I personally enjoyed the hardcore match more. Only for me because, I mean, my attention span's not the greatest, so that match had a lot of hardcore stuff, which really kept me captivated and compelled the whole way through. This match was really good, and I was interested the whole way through, just don't get me wrong, but I thought the match a year ago was a little bit better. Not to say that the Winter is Coming match between Moxley and Omega wasn't great, because as far as star ratings, it was a solid 4.25, 4.5. Like, I wouldn't be giving this match a 5. If you're giving this match 5, I mean, fair enough, fair play to you. So, yeah, Omega won the title. They did this whole thing where Don Callis was, like, involved. He was getting involved. Then, after the match, when Kenny Omega had won the title, they did the screw job. They fled the scene. They rushed outside to the Daily's Place car park. Kenny Omega gets in a limousine, like a car. He's got the AEW World title, and Don Callis proceeds to do this, like, really kind of short, sharp, straight to the point, mini promo, saying that, Kenny Omega and himself will see the world on Impact Wrestling. And that, in other words, AEW now has a partnership with Impact Wrestling. Interesting. So, that's the big talk of the wrestling world, alongside Sting and a couple of other things I'm still to talk about. Kenny Omega and All Elite Wrestling are in a partnership with Impact. I mean, I like it, because, yes, a lot of people have made the criticism that, look, Impact Wrestling, the bulk of their fans are just the AEW fans, and I mean, that's true, that's not wrong. I'm sure you can't really find data and statistics to back that up because confidentiality and whatnot, but I think it's fairly safe to ascertain that the mass majority of the people who watch Impact are the people who watch All Elite Wrestling, so it's not really like you're doing a big crossover as far as fans. It's not like you do, I don't know, what's a good comparison to make here? It's not like you're doing like a Simpsons and WWE crossover, that kind of thing. Like back in the 90s when they did that, and you had like Bret Hart as a Simpson. It's not like that kind of thing where you're taking one entertainment medium, one TV show, one thing, and merging with another. It's not that big of like a cataclysmic, world-altering shift. But in the wrestling fraternity, it's pretty damn big, because Impact Wrestling, look, I don't know where you view Impact Wrestling in 2020. Personally, to me, I see Impact Wrestling as a promotion who, back in the 2000s, they had an identity. They really did. Then the early 2010s, Bischoff, Hogan, it lost its identity. It became Dixie Carter trying to compete with WWE, Dixie Carter doing her best to become Stephanie McMahon. It became TNA and Impact, and they changed the name, and they went to that blue Impact Wrestling where it was like blue and black, and like Lashley was the champion, and EC3 and Rockstar Spud were in the main event every week. They did that, and then there was like the GFW stuff with Jeff Jarrett, and then they literally fell off the face of the earth as far as relevancy for like 5 years, and now they're more relevant again because in 2020, Tessa Blanchard, what happened there with her winning the title, you had the stuff at Slammiversary, and the ex-WWE guys moving over to TNA in the middle of the year. Now, Impact Wrestling has Kenny Omega, AEW's crossover, so it gives Impact Wrestling some relevancy. Do I really care about Impact Wrestling now? I mean, I care to see what Kenny Omega's going to do, so I'm going to watch Impact Wrestling, and in turn, Impact Wrestling are going to get a mass influx of viewers, at least for the next couple weeks, which for them is a massive W. Hopefully, they can get a bunch of the AEW audience to stick around and stay interested, and that's really down to Impact Wrestling booking a consistent, good, entertaining product, because hopefully, if Impact Wrestling can do that good, entertaining product, then people are going to care. Then people, viewers like me, who I think I'm the perfect example for this situation. I'm someone who Impact Wrestling on its own doesn't interest me. I don't really care to watch Impact Wrestling. I turn on Impact Wrestling and I see Rich Swann, Eric Young, Eddie Edwards, a really good knockouts division with Deonna Purrazzo, Jordan Grace, and all these great women. I see a good tag team division. The Motor City Machine Guns are involved. You've got the North. You've got this, the Good Brothers. Like EC3's involved. I like Moose, RVD's in and around. Like Impact Wrestling, the roster's good. Like the roster has potential, but it's just about how you use that, because in the next couple of weeks and hopefully months, you're going to have viewers like me who watch All Elite Wrestling and are following AEW. We're going to put our eyeballs on Impact Wrestling. So this is really the chance for Impact Wrestling. They need to really not tighten up their booking, but really make sure creatively that the next 2 months especially, they go balls to the wall. What is the best content we can do? What are some storylines? Who can we push to where fans from AEW are really going to want to stick around for Impact Wrestling? Because once again, I don't have the quantitative analytics as to how many people who watch All Elite Wrestling usually watch Impact. So I can't really say exactly how many do as is and how many fans from All Elite Wrestling could and should end up going watch Impact Wrestling long term after this. But this crossover does have plenty of potential. It has plenty of, opportunities. Like I've seen a lot of people go like for dream matches. Oh my god, I can't wait to see Eddie Edwards versus Kenny Omega. Oh my god, I can't wait to see FTR versus the North. Oh, FTR versus the Good Brothers in Impact Wrestling. Like there's plenty of these like dream matches of sorts, which that's always good. Wrestling, especially wrestling Twitter and just the wrestling community in general, the community thrives off of that. Potential dream matches, storylines that are compelling. That's one of the reasons I stay around as a fan, because the prospect of matches and storylines that are compelling, it keeps me going. Like, for example, thinking that, oh my god, WrestleMania 37, we could see a storyline between Roman Reigns and The Rock. That kind of stuff keeps me going. So, in that sense, Impact Wrestling, AEW, it gives the fans, especially the hardcore wrestling fans, excitement, joy, fun, and at the end of the day, that's all we're here to do. If you're a wrestling fan, if you're a fan of anything, you want to enjoy it. You want to have fun, and this promotion, this Impact AEW crossover really provides basis for us as fans to have that opportunity, to have the opportunity to see our AEW favorites in Impact Wrestling, to see our Impact Wrestling favorites or in the Impact Wrestling roster mingling and intertwining with AEW. So in that regard, I think it's really good, it's really interesting, it's compelling. I like the AEW Impact crossover. One, as a content creator, it gives me an extra video every week, potentially upwards of like 2 to 3. If what they're doing is that compelling, that I can make several videos a week about it, boy oh boy, that would be lovely. So hopefully they can do some compelling content for us. I think that would be ideal if they could, because at the end of the day, all I want to do is have fun watching wrestling. That's literally the theme of this channel, just me trying to make pro wrestling entertaining, and hopefully if WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, all these companies can make wrestling like produce entertaining wrestling. That makes my job and our job as content creators for you viewers so much easier, because there's nothing worse than grasping at straws for a reason to care about a show. Hopefully, we get reasons to care. This Impact Wrestling AEW crossover, it really does provide merit and provide a structure for why we should care. It really does. So hopefully it's good. What they're going to do on tonight's Impact or yesterday's or whenever you're watching this, hopefully what they do on Impact, look, there's plenty of things they can do. My good mate Bonafide Heat made a whole video about this. 5 things that Kenny Omega is going to say or do or could say and do at Impact Wrestling on December 8th, I believe it is. So, yeah, Bonafide Heat made that video. I'm not going to try and regurgitate his video now, but essentially, hopefully it's something interesting, whether that's maybe an AEW invasion, maybe the Elite invade Impact Wrestling, maybe Kenny Omega starts beef with Eddie Edwards. I don't know what they're going to do. Ideally, all I want to see is some continuity, some logic, a reason to care, something like that. I want to see AEW and Impact do stuff which is compelling. I don't want it to just be like the Survivor Series last year, where it was literally, okay, WWE is fighting NXT, watch matches. Oh, WWE and NXT are feuding, okay, well, just watch Ricochet versus Matt Riddle, because they're in the same building, watch them wrestle. I'm sure, once again, that's going to please the match marks and the people who love the in-ring to the nth degree, to the 10th fold, to the highest order. But to a casual fan like me who's watching Impact Wrestling, someone who doesn't really watch Impact much, but is giving them this chance because of this crossover with Kenny Omega and Don Callis, for me, I want to see storylines. I want to see angles. I want to see a reason to care. I want to see Kenny Omega. We begin Impact Wrestling and we see a camera shot of Kenny Omega laying out Eddie Edwards. Kenny Omega laying out Eddie Edwards. We cut to the Impact Wrestling opening. Kenny Omega comes out with Don Callis. They're wearing suits. Kenny's got his sunglasses on. He's got his AEW World Championship. He says that this promotion is one that he's had his eye on for a while. As an EVP for All Elite Wrestling, he's watched this promotion. He's seen what this promotion has to offer. He's seen the talent. He's seen how good they are. But at the same time, he sees them as a joke. He sees them as a promotion who he wants to stamp his authority over. Kenny Omega says that he's the AEW World Champion. He's better than anyone and everyone in this promotion. And he's going to prove it. And he's going to start by going after the World Champion. And then you could have the Impact Wrestling locker room, come onto the stage and say that we're not going to let you walk all over us. You're going to have to go through us and you're going to have to do something. That right there is all off the top of my head. None of that was written down. That's just straight off the top of the elitist big brain. That's all I just thought of right there. And that doesn't take into consideration if I actually sat down, or if a creative team sat down for 10, 15, 30 minutes, 2 hours, 4 hours, and really crafted a logical, consistent storyline. This could produce some really good stuff. And I think there's plenty of room to go there. There's plenty of basis to really go forward with. So in that regard, I think the crossover is really good. So yeah, that's what they're doing there. Hopefully it's really good. I think I'm just going to really move on from that because, yeah, the crossover, plenty of dream matches. It's a great opportunity for both promotions, particularly Impact Wrestling, to really grow their audience. AEW, not so much for growing their audience, but really developing their reach on the wrestling game. Because if AEW can really get this thing going where it's like AEW versus, AEW and like allies, and the indie allies versus WWE, that could be big for them because really, there's been the talks about unionization and really creating like a thing where all the wrestlers like go against WWE. But if you could do that in the sense that AEW, NWA, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor, MLW Fusion, all these companies can really like rally together and create this like big like conglomerate with AEW to combat WWE. I think if you're looking for an AEW versus WWE type war, I think that's your best shout. That's your best bet. Because it's looking more and more likely. This AEW and Impact Wrestling thing, we've already seen AEW and NWA work together. Thunder Rosa having a match with Serena Deeb. Thunder Rosa having a match with Hikaru Shida. We've seen this kind of stuff. So we've seen the NWA and with Eddie Kingston and all that, with Ricky Starks. We've seen the NWA. Now we're seeing Impact Wrestling. We get to see potentially Impact Wrestling guys in AEW, or potentially EC3 in AEW, Rob Van Dam, the Good Brothers, all these, Deonna Purrazzo in AEW, all these women and all these men. We get to see them have the chance on the AEW stage, really get to put their name out there some more, really develop some characters. Maybe some of this stuff really sticks long term. So plenty to look forward to with this crossover. Wrestling in general, really good stuff. So that's that as far as the AEW and Impact Wrestling partnership. And so now moving on to Pat Patterson. I had to throw this in the video here because Pat Patterson left an incredible just legacy on the pro wrestling business. Pat is someone who, as a wrestler, was a great talent, and he was an Intercontinental Champion. He was one of the iconic Intercontinental Champion title holders. So with the IC title, he left a legacy there. As far as everything else, though, behind the curtain, as far as like booking shows and developing talent and all that kind of stuff, Pat Patterson left just such a legacy. I mean, Vince McMahon's told the stories on like the Austin podcast, that thing they did like 6 years ago, told the story of him and Pat Patterson at a pool just booking shows. So in that regard, Pat Patterson is not like directly responsible for Hulkamania, but he was a massive part of it. The fact that him and Vince booked the shows in like the 80s and that kind of time period. So Pat Patterson has gone a long way in making pro wrestling what it is today, and really laying the foundation for the WWE to really achieve the heights that it's now reaching, where WWE nowadays is getting the most profitable quarter every quarter. Pat Patterson is a pivotal part of that. The foundation stone of Hulkamania, the foundation stone of the 80s golden era for pro wrestling, a lot of that is, by responsibility of Pat Patterson. So, yeah, rest in peace, Pat Patterson. As I said, it would have been remiss of me not to mention this in the video in some way, shape, form, or capacity. So, yeah, rest in peace, Pat Patterson. You'll be missed. Also, one other thing I want to say. I get Pat Patterson, his name is a bit... How should I put this? His name is a bit tarnished as a result of certain events that have gone down regarding Pat Patterson. I'm not really going to go into that type of stuff on this channel because, I mean... I'm hardly informed on that type of stuff. I know the full story. I'm not just going to make accusations and negative claims about Pat Patterson, particularly in the days and weeks after he's passed away. Let that stuff just... It'll be out there, okay? I'm not going to address it. There's not, like, one thing I've seen on social media that's kind of pissed me off, like, a fair bit. Like, yes, was Pat Patterson some saint? Was Pat Patterson the greatest person ever? God, no. But some of the stuff I've seen people say about Pat Patterson, like, yeah, I get Pat Patterson, once again, no saint, but oh my god. Pat Patterson passes away, and these people on wrestling Twitter, dude, oh my god. These people, Jesus Christ. Anyway, I'm going to move on from this whole thing, because I don't really feel like talking about wrestling Twitter and some of the people on it anymore. So that's that. Next up, I want to talk about the other, like, big newsy kind of story. Ideally, I talk about this for like 15 to 20 minutes because this is a big story that's worthy of 15 to 20 minutes. So, World Championship Wrestling, we remember WCW, World Championship Wrestling, the company that was responsible for nearly taking Vince McMahon out of business, that one. WCW, there was this nonsense BS thing about them coming back in 2021. There was this Twitter account made, and the CEO dude or whatever, this ambassador for them, made a tweet. It was like almost like a contract of sorts, like a letter, talking about how they're going to reboot in 2021 and that they're coming back and that they own like half the rights to WCW, and they had like the WCW logo from like 2000, 2001. What? Like, that was my first reaction. So, once again, I talked about this with the Sting thing. I'm going to reenact what I was thinking, what I was experiencing, what I was feeling when I found out that World Championship Wrestling is, quote-unquote, a million quotes around this, coming back in 2021. Unquote. So, I'm sitting there, like, I check my phone because I'm out and about doing some activity. I grab my phone. I go, okay, I haven't been on social media for like most of the day. What's going on? What's on wrestling Twitter? Well, what's happened? Is anything big happened? This seems like a newsworthy type of week. Is anything going on? I get my phone out, go to Twitter, and then I see people talking about WCW. I'm like, okay, why is WCW relevant? Why is WCW trending? What is the go with WCW? WCW was put to bed 20 years ago. What's happening? So I read this letter. I go through this WCW Twitter account. The tweets themselves, by and large, are ratioed. If you don't get what that means, basically, to really simplify it, essentially, a ratioed tweet is a tweet which either has more retweets than likes, or like more comments, or usually, ideally, tweets have likes. A tweet has likes, like the most. I've stuffed this completely. Basically, tweets have likes, retweets, comments. Ideally, the thing of the one of those three that have the most of is likes. Ideally, you have most likes. The retweets, ideally you have a number of retweets, but if you're having more retweets than likes, that's not ideal. Basically, these WCW account tweets, all of those tweets had more comments and more retweets than likes, which that is never a good sign if you're trying to be taken seriously. That basically means people are quote tweeting or retweeting, but mainly quote tweeting. They're quote tweeting the WCW tweets, making a mockery of them. And that's literally what it was, because my timeline and my mentions, holy God, my word. A lot of people, in fairness, did think it was legit. A lot of people thought this WCW reboot was an actual thing that's happening. Now, it waits to be seen. Maybe by some long shot, a year from now, we have WCW every Thursday night or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm always down for an extra night of content to review each week. Easy videos for me, I'm down, but at the same time, people believing this, like, really, like, dude, just no. Like, the best way to describe this is how I described it on Twitter myself, is nonsense. That's what this is. Like, you can call it a bunch of things. You can get more explicit with it. You can use as many cuss words as you want to describe it. The bare bones crux of it is that this whole thing is nonsense. That's really what it is. It literally is what it is. So, yeah, that's the whole go with the WCW reboot. I've seen people have very mixed feelings on this. Once again, people thought this was legit, and at the same time, people thought this was complete BS, bogus slander. Just in general, one thing I will say is, feasibly, how in the hell is this going to work? Like, I know it's not legit, but just trying to think of feasibly how that would work when WWE with Vince McMahon literally owned WCW. They own majority share of the company. So, it doesn't make sense, dude. WCW is not going to be relaunched. I don't get the need to try and do this. I get, it was just a troll job. It's got me talking about it in a video. So, I guess the goal behind the account and the goal behind what this account was trying to do has worked. And it created, like, a buzz in the wrestling community for a couple days. So, I guess in that regard, it was a big success. But, bruh, Matt Riddle, bro. Nah, it's just, bruh. Like, seriously, I don't know. WCW relaunching, just no. So, I'm not going to keep regurgitating that. We're just going to move on with the video and the podcast and whatnot. So, that was that. As far as other stuff, now talking about WWE, because I've literally talked about everything that's not named WWE for the past, like, 50 minutes now. So, yeah, as far as WWE, TLC 2020 is really taking shape now. Drew McIntyre versus AJ Styles in a TLC match. Basically, what happened with this, most of you guys are aware of this, but not many of you care based on the views on the Raw reviews last week. Basically, there was a triple threat match, AJ Styles, Keith Lee, and Riddle. Winner faces Drew McIntyre for the title at TLC. AJ Styles obviously won, so I guess now they're doing a storyline where essentially what they're doing is AJ Styles is feuding with McIntyre, obviously, and then The Miz and John Morrison, because The Miz is Mr. Money in the Bank, The Miz and John Morrison are like trying to get in with AJ Styles and get on his good books, but at the same time, Styles is a bit sketchy to it, and they did the 2-on-3 handicap match on Raw, which is going on, like, as I'm talking right now, so yeah, that's what they're doing with that. The match itself, McIntyre versus Styles, I think AJ Styles is a perfect opponent for this, like, December pay-per-view, because it's going to be, like, a really good match. I don't know quite how good the match will be, because, I mean, if we're talking in terms of stars, this just screams like a 4.25 star match. This match doesn't scream like it's going to be a 5. Like, I'm not getting 5-star match vibes from this match. Now, it could well be, because AJ Styles is, by all accounts, and by many people, the best in-ring guy of this generation. So, in that regard, it could well be a 5-star match. And if it is, amazing. But regardless of match quality, I think McIntyre, him retaining is just the obvious thing to do. So, yeah, more on that in predictions videos to come. But yeah, just know, TLC 2020, the main event, I presume will be the main event. McIntyre versus AJ Styles, TLC match for the WWE title. Does that match need to be a TLC match? No, but I guess it's the same thing as Hell in a Cell, really. Like, remember with Hell in a Cell, all they did with that was have Hell in a Cell matches that didn't need to be in the cell, be in the cell. For example, the Tribal Consequences, Reigns versus Jey Uso match. In hindsight, I'm kind of happy that was in the cell because the match was really damn good, but did it really need the cell? I don't know. I really don't know if that needed the cell. So there was that one. Orton and McIntyre, that one warranted the cell, but the whole feud was stuffed anyway, so no one really cares. And then Bayley and Sasha, I guess that'll make sense. So, yeah, not as much this year, but especially years past, like 2016, none of those matches needed Hell in a Cell. Flat out, Charlotte versus Sasha didn't need Hell in a Cell, or kind of maybe. The whole thing they did with Owens and... who was it? Owens and Rollins, I think. That didn't need the cell. Rusev versus Reigns didn't need the cell. So, yeah, most Hell in a Cell matches nowadays don't need to happen. Same with this TLC thing here. TLC, we don't need to see McIntyre versus Styles in a TLC match, but it's December. It's the Christmas time pay-per-view. It's a TLC match, I guess. Doesn't matter. I guess some people in the community might make a huge fuss and kick up a big stink about this. It doesn't really matter. So, that's that. Then we're getting The Fiend, Bray Wyatt with Alexa Bliss versus Randy Orton. This one I've seen very mixed things about because Randy Orton, I don't know, dude. He's Randy Orton. So I haven't seen the most positive things about Orton versus Bray Wyatt. Personally, I'm interested because I like Bray. I like Alexa Bliss. I like the Funhouse. I like what they're doing with that. So I think that's really good. Randy Orton, I don't know. He's Randy Orton. He's not the most captivating guy, but at the same time, he meets his roles. So that's that. I'm pretty much the rest of the card outside of Reigns and Owens, which I'll talk about in a separate video. The rest of the card just doesn't matter. Sasha Banks versus Carmella. Okay, fine, interesting enough, I guess. Sure. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler defend the women's tag titles against Asuka and Lana. Bruh. So that's that. Lastly, with the final thing I'll talk about before I get out of here. NXT TakeOver War Games. So, TakeOver War Games 4, the 2020 edition of War Games, took place as of the making of this video. It took place a day ago. So, when you're watching this video, it took place 2 days ago. War Games, personally, it's such a tough one because all the reviewers in the community love this show because the thing with NXT, with takeovers especially, usually match by match, like just purely based on matches, the shows have really good the matches have really good ratings. Like match by match, the matches are usually consistently quite good. So in that regard, many people say it was like a really good show. Personally, I'm not really that much about, oh my god, the match is really good, therefore I love the show. I'm also about the logic behind things, the booking, did this make this person look strong? What did the show do in achieving the greater purpose of booking a consistent good product? So that's what I watch NXT for. And what I saw from TakeOver War Games was an NXT who, look, the best way I can put it is it's Triple H being stuck in the past. It's Triple H very much doing a main roster to the sense where the Undisputed Era, Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, these guys consistently, time after time, just pick up wins where they don't need to. Like, I look at this show here. Tommaso Ciampa versus Timothy Thatcher. Great opportunity for Timothy Thatcher. Beats Tommaso Ciampa. All of a sudden, some people who don't know who Timothy Thatcher is, who aren't really fully across Timothy Thatcher, the Thatcher's catch can thing, people might go, oh, damn, he beat Tommaso Ciampa. That's a big win. Because Tommaso Ciampa doesn't need to win this match. Tommaso Ciampa, no one looks at him and goes, oh, thank God Tommaso Ciampa beat Timothy Thatcher. People look at Tommaso Ciampa and think, that's the guy who in 2018 was the best heel in wrestling. That's the guy who had the feud with Johnny Gargano. That's the guy who was a great NXT champion. That's the guy who's a great talent. That's what people see when they see Tommaso Ciampa. They see an established pro wrestler. And when they see a guy like, oh, I don't know, Timothy Thatcher, they see someone who is there. They're there for the making, but they're not quite made yet. So, TakeOver War Games serves as a perfect opportunity to have Timothy Thatcher go over Tommaso Ciampa. Why not? The match means nothing anyway. There's no title on the line. Why not have T Thatcher go over T Ciampa? Why not? Like, I guess, I don't know why. It's Triple H, it's NXT, it's developmental, but it's not developmental. It's a third brand, but it's really not a third brand. It lacks identity. Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Adam Cole, Undisputed Era. It's just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. More on that, Johnny Gargano is now a 3-time North American champion. So, essentially, this whole storyline with Leon Ruff of hot potatoing the title to where Priest won it and then lost it to Johnny, and then Ruff won it and then Ruff lost it back to Johnny. This whole thing, essentially, how I see it, this whole thing has been purely, for one, to boost up the number of reigns Johnny Gargano has, just so Triple H and the NXT commentators like Vic Joseph and Wade Barrett can say in future, oh, he is the only ever 3-time North American champion. It's like, bruh, you lost the title to Leon Ruff. Like, is this really an achievement? And at the same time, it's Johnny Gargano. Like, I can say whatever I want about the guy because he has been blocked on Twitter. This dude, he's fallen so far since his, like, heyday. Since 2018 with stuff with Tommaso Ciampa, 2019 with that all-time great match at TakeOver New York versus Adam Cole. Since then, Johnny Gargano's become a beta male house husband simp. That's Johnny Gargano. That's his character. I'm not just throwing shots at him for the sake of that. That is his character. He's a beta male simp. It's just facts. So he's now the North American champion again. Do I really care? I mean, I guess. I mean, it's Johnny Gargano. He's North American champion. Hopefully, you just have Priest win the title back and be done. Have Johnny Gargano either retire or go to the main roster with Tommaso Ciampa. Ideally, what you do is have DIY go to the main roster. I get both of those guys, particularly Gargano, aren't really going to fit in on the main roster because of their physical appearance, because of their lack of mic skills, mainly Johnny, because Tommaso's good on the mic. So, yeah, I think move them up to the main roster. But in the meantime, Ciampa just beat Timothy Thatcher for no reason. We had Johnny Gargano win the North American title because Austin Theory helped him. Yeah. Austin Theory, aka Ghostface, is back. They did the whole, it was me, Austin. It was me. I'm Ghostface. It was me. And it's like, okay, bruh. Okay. Thanks for that, Triple H. Really need to say that. So, yeah, that's what NXT is doing as far as Gargano and Ciampa. As far as the other stuff, the War Games matches, I thought the War Games matches were interesting. Now, War Games matches usually are quite good. These two are no exception. The matches themselves were quite good. Not for a second going to take anything away from that. As far as the men's one, though, I've seen people say that was like the second best match all year. It's top 10 for sure. I'd have to really check over like what matches are where, but I honestly don't feel like that match was like as good as I've seen people say it was. Like, I've seen people say that match was just like one of the best War Games matches they've ever seen, one of the best matches they've ever seen. I've seen people on Twitter say that. It's like, good match. Pat McAfee looked great. That Pat McAfee dive off the top of the cage was just exceptional. I mean, Pat McAfee, look, I'm not going to lie to you guys. The ending of this match did bother me quite a bit, or just the result, because I look at the Undisputed Era as guys who, they've been in NXT now for how long? 3.5 years? They've been in NXT for so long. The Undisputed Era, the whole Golden Prophecy thing, where they held all the titles. You had NXT champion Adam Cole, you had North American champion Roderick Strong, you had Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish as the tag team champions. That whole time period of NXT, I never got that. I'm going to make another video about NXT more than likely because it's an easy topic. It's easy to stick the boot into NXT, but holy hell, that was shocking for NXT. Having those four as holding all the belts, I mean, that was not a good way to go into the USA Network. So, yeah, UE, they've been around NXT forever. They've done absolutely everything that's been there to do. Now they're, I guess, faces. So I guess we're going to see people in the wrestling community say, oh, well, they're faces, so they're not heels, so therefore they're fresh. It's like, no, it's Adam Cole, it's Kyle O'Reilly, it's Bobby Fish, it's Roderick Strong wearing Undisputed Era t-shirts. Okay, Adam Cole's promo is a bit less snarky this time. Oh, wow. Adam Cole is a bit more likable. Oh, they're so much different. They wrestle the exact same style each. There's no new members. There's no nothing. There's no move for the main roster. They're just there. So, yeah, the UE won the match. Okay, was what it was. And then the stuff they did with the women's one. Raquel Gonzalez pinned Io Shirai. Okay, I guess they're going to push Raquel Gonzalez to become champion. Sure, rightio. I mean, I'm not against Raquel Gonzalez. I just don't really care. So, I mean, that's what they did there. Overall, TakeOver War Games, I give the show a solid B, I think. I especially the Ciampa Thatcher match. I thought the match was pretty good, but I wasn't really into it as much. Ciampa winning, not the greatest. I thought Loomis versus Grimes was serviceable. Cameron Grimes is involved, so I didn't really care. So that match was just boring for me. That's really about it as far as NXT. And the triple threat match with Gargano winning, don't really care. So overall, I'll give TakeOver War Games 4 a B. And that's basically been the Elitist Effect. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed. This has been a long one. Had to really cover all this stuff in a video because, once again, as I said, I could have made 5 separate videos out of the content of this, but I thought it'd be better off if I do this now because, I don't know, don't want to make you guys sit through excessive videos all for the sake of me getting more clicks on my vids. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the Elitist Effect. If you want to see more of this, it's going to be kind of hard to do, like, long, really newsworthy Elitist Effects because, by and large, the reason I stopped doing these was because there wasn't enough wrestling news. And wrestling news, it was like a dry well. There wasn't really anything worth talking about or worth making a video out of. So the Elitist Effects kind of stopped. Now, for this week especially, there was plenty of stuff to talk about. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed that. I'm just going to get out of here now. Like, comment, subscribe, on the drill. See ya.